Hey guys, 2025's new K-drama isn't holding back. A wrongfully convicted prisoner serving a life sentence plotted an escape with just a few gardening sponges. This move is pretty insane. Did he actually pull it off? Right as the story kicks off, a guard brings Park Tae-jung a few sponges, originally meant to absorb water under potted plants, but Tae-jung stared at those sponges and made up his mind right then and there. He was escaping with these things. First, he hid the potted plant in the storage room. The next day, once he got the key to clean the office, he bolted over, wiped the dirt off the sponges, and pressed the key flat against both sides. Boom! A makeshift mold was done. Back on the playground, he squeezed out work glue to coat the key indentations, stuffed the sponges back into the pot under the plant, and snuck it into the high-temperature greenhouse. It set in just 10 hours there, way faster than at room temperature. The next day, Tae-jung got assigned to the repair shop. As soon as he walked in, he noticed metal detectors at the entrance. Metal keys stood no chance of getting out. He used fixing the guard's car as an excuse to drag things out until lunchtime. With the shop empty, he grabbed the hardened glue key, traced its shape onto a metal plate, and started cutting. Making a key is precision work. One tiny mistake and it's useless. Just as he sped up, the guard returned early from lunch and heard the sander. "What are you doing? Stop right there!" The guard thought Tae-jung was making a weapon and rushed over to yank him away, but Tae-jung was holding a car part. "Your pulley's making noise, this replacement'll fix it." He installed it on the spot. The guard's attitude did a total 180, and he even handed Tae-jung his leftover hamburger as a reward. That unexpected return cranks up the tension to 11. But Tae-jung already had a backup plan. His quick thinking to pass the key off as a car part shows just how sharp he is. This crisis resolution keeps you on the edge of your seat. Just as Tae-jung was about to leave, the guard stopped him. "Gotta do a check anyway." The detector swept over his body and his heart raced, but nothing beeped. Turns out he'd hidden the metal key in the hamburger bag the guard gave him. The guard would never think to search something he'd handed out himself. He barely dodged that bullet when the prison's #2 boss blocked his path. Covered in straight-line tattoos, rumor has it one for each person he's killed, meaning no turning back. He knew Tae-jung had beef with the #1 boss and tried to recruit him to take the other down. But Tae-jung ignored him and kept walking. A lackey stepped up, arrogant. "My boss is talking to you. You deaf?" The #2 boss slapped him 4 times hard. "You idiot, ruining my mood." Before leaving, he warned Tae-jung, "Either you kill him or he kills you. Think it over." The lackey tried to snatch Tae-jung's hamburger bag, but the boss snapped, "Let him go." Tae-jung hurried back to his cell, pulled the key out of his pocket, and ate the hamburger with a grin. Phase 1 of the escape plan was a success. Little did he know, in a dark corner of the city, a mysterious figure was watching the city's surveillance cameras. A big conspiracy was waiting for him, and the #1 boss had long wanted him dead. Let's rewind. How did Tae-jung end up in prison anyway? You've never seen a more arrogant chaebol heir? He stole a delivery on his sports car, threw it on the ground, and sped off. Tae-jung was a delivery driver back then. Seeing the smashed food, he picked it up, tossed it back in his bag, fired up the engine, and chased after the sports car. The chaebol was even more cocky. When pedestrians crossed the road, he didn't slow down and yelled, "Get out the way, you dog!" Tae-jung took a shortcut to a straight stretch, sped past the sports car, and drifted to cut it off. He threw the damaged delivery at the chaebol. "You haven't paid yet!" More and more people gathered to watch. The chaebol had no choice but to pay. Tae-jung took the money, said, "Don't be so arrogant next time," and walked away, satisfied. This car chase is absolutely intense. Tae-jung's willingness to stand up for what's right shows his integrity, and it foreshadows his later personality. He's easy to trust people and always willing to help. After all, kind people are the ones who get taken advantage of the most. Tae-jung worked himself to the bone delivering food just to send his younger brother to a good university. He was incredibly thoughtful. When he saw a wilting plant in the stairwell, he'd write a care guide for it. No matter how rushed a delivery was, he'd help elderly people carry their suitcases up ramps. One day, while Tae-jung was eating, he heard a phone ringing in the grass. He answered it, and the owner said she was a woman who didn't feel comfortable having a stranger come to her place. She asked him to put the phone in a tunnel phone booth and offered 300,000 won as a reward. Tae-jung agreed right away. He went to the tunnel, opened the phone booth, and sure enough, the 300,000 won was there. He left the phone, took the money, and left, never realizing that phone was the start of his nightmare. The next day, the police burst in and arrested Tae-jung, accusing him of rape and murder. The victim, the woman who'd lost the phone. His girlfriend quickly hired a lawyer who presented Tae-jung's delivery route as an alibi, but the prosecution hit back with 3 deadly questions, each one hitting right where it hurt. First, you delivered to the victim. Everyone else takes 3 minutes. Why'd you stay 7? Tae-jung explained he'd noticed the potted plants in the stairwell were misaligned, so he rearranged them and wrote care instructions. Second, surveillance shows you carrying a suitcase into a no-camera area. That's the one the body was in. Tai-jung said it was a suitcase he'd helped an elderly person carry. Third, why did you have the victim's phone? Tai-jung said he found it, but the tunnel was only 1 kilometer from the body dump. His story didn't add up. These 3 questions are brutal. Each one rides on coincidence, turning Tai-jung's kind acts into evidence. It's clear the person who framed him had been watching his daily habits like a hawk. Even more devastating, Tai-jung's semen was found in the victim's body. That's when Tai-jung remembered. After a date with his girlfriend the night before, he'd casually thrown away the condom. No one believed his explanation, and in the end, Tai-jung was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was sent to prison the same day. As soon as he arrived, they forced his head under cold water. After washing up, he put on a blue prison uniform, underwent a thorough medical exam, and had his mugshot taken. He thought he'd never get a chance to prove his innocence, until a public defender found him saying he thought there were too many holes in the case and wanted to help. The lawyer asked if he had any other evidence. Tai-jung suddenly remembered the necklace at the crime scene wasn't his. He'd gone to see his brother a few days earlier and taken a nap in his dorm. His bracelet must have fallen off there. If they found the bracelet, it could prove his innocence. He quickly told the lawyer his brother's address. The lawyer warned him, "Don't tell anyone about this." The lawyer's appearance should have been a ray of hope, but that line, "Don't tell anyone," only hints at danger. After all, in this carefully planned frame-up, it's impossible to tell who's an enemy and who's a friend. Before long, Tai-jung was taken to the #1 boss. Bottles of foreign liquor lined the shelves. Being able to get contraband like that in prison tells you everything about how dangerous this guy was. Tai-jung tried to rush out, but lackeys grabbed him and stomped hard on his wrist. The boss asked, "Why are you here? How long's your sentence?" Tai-jung whispered, "Life. I'm innocent." Just then, guards came for a room check, and he managed to slip away. Back in his cell, a cellmate threw a paper ball at him. "You're dead meat. Heard you're a rapist? Want me to treat you like one?" Tai-jung could only huddle in the corner and stay quiet. At mealtime the next day, Tai-jung watched the #1 boss bully someone. A prisoner couldn't pay back a debt, so the boss made him grind his eating spoon into an embroidery needle. The guy ground for 2 hours, but the spoon still didn't look like a needle. The boss got mad, flicked his cigarette away, and the prisoner's fate was unspeakably terrible. A fellow inmate told Tai-jung the #1 boss used to be a gang leader. He'd originally gotten life, but had his sentence cut to 12 years with money. His sister had been assaulted once, so he hated anyone who hurt women and specifically targeted those prisoners for torture. The #1 boss's backstory is crucial. His hatred for prisoners who harm women plants a ticking time bomb in Tai-jung's prison life. It also explains why the #2 boss wanted to recruit Tai-jung later. An enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? A fellow inmate even lied to Tai-jung saying he'd protect him. Instead, he led Tai-jung to a gay paradise. Tai-jung tried to run, but the inmate shoved him inside. Someone was already waiting. The inmate took off his pants, another guy locked the door, and Tai-jung was violated. His back door was completely breached. Later, he walked to the playground covered in bruises, and everyone kicked him as he passed. What broke him even more was when the public defender came to see him the next day with news of his brother's death. "I'm sorry, I got there too late. I couldn't help." His brother's death was the final straw. Tai-jung became a shell of himself, wandering around and letting everyone take their anger out on him. The emotional pain of losing his brother was far worse than any physical beating. That night, Tai-jung stood on a stool, ready to take his own life. In a daze, he saw his brother crying and saying, "You can save other things. Why would you kill yourself? Don't come to heaven for me." Later, he was taken to the church to pray. After the prayer, everyone else took a cake and left. Only Tai-jung sat there, stunned. Pastor No Yong-sik walked over. "I saw you crying on the playground during exercise." As he handed Tai-jung a cake, Tai-jung noticed the scar on the pastor's wrist. Clearly, the pastor had a past he didn't talk about. The pastor said, "Face reality. This is prison. No matter what you've been through, survive first. Life is a gift from God." Those words woke Tai-jung up. He decided to pull himself together, to become strong in prison, to escape, and to clear his name. From wanting to die to vowing to fight back, the vision of his brother and the pastor's words are the key turning points. The director uses this redemption moment to make Tai-jung's transformation feel natural. It also gives him the motivation to spend the next 5 years preparing relentlessly. After that, Tai-jung started his escape plan. First, he trained his body. Even if he got beaten every day, he stuck to 200 sit-ups, 150 push-ups, and 400 air squats. He went from taking every punch to being able to fight back. Second, he learned skills. With all the time in prison, he studied nonstop and earned a stack of certifications. Third, he grew plants. Before everything happened, he'd been about to open a flower shop. In prison, he picked up his old trade, sowed seeds in a corner, and slowly grew lush greenery. 5 years flew by, and Tae-jung had become the prison's go-to plant expert. Even guards came to him for help. There are black spots on the leaves. What do I do? Tae-jung just glanced at it and knew. It's malnutrition. This plant loves sunlight. Don't keep it cooped up indoors all the time. After the guard left, the pastor sneaked over with a cake and handed Tae-jung his favorite bracelet. I hope you stay like this. Keep your head up and don't cry anymore. Tae-jung sensed something was off. When he pressed for answers, he found out it was the pastor's release day. Tae-jung went to see him off. They stood separated by barbed wire, one walking toward freedom, the other still trapped. Tae-jung suddenly called out, "Thank you for looking out for me all this time." Then he bowed deeply. In 5 years, Tae-jung went from a pushover everyone could walk all over to a prison standout, with skills, strength, and even a connection. None of this build-up is for nothing. Every step of his escape later hinges on these 5 years of groundwork. After the pastor left, Tae-jung spent every day studying the Bible. When he saw a new prisoner, he thought of himself when he first arrived. One day, the new guy came to the church. Tae-jung wanted to help him just like the pastor had helped him, but the new inmate's first words sent chills down Tae-jung's spine. "If I hadn't gone to return that lost phone, none of this would have happened." The new guy said he was framed too. After finding a phone, someone offered him money to deliver it to a specific spot. He was caught on camera, and his stuff and fingerprints were found somewhere he'd never been. Coincidentally, he also had an alibi, and he'd met a proactive public defender who'd vanished afterward. The new inmate added that the day after he got to prison, he'd gotten news his mom had killed herself. He was sure his mom would never commit suicide. His story was identical to Tae-jung's. This is the moment it all clicks. Tae-jung isn't the only victim. This is a mass-framing conspiracy. The new inmate's appearance expands the plot's scope, turning Tae-jung's quest for justice from personal revenge to exposing a cover-up, and that's what makes it even more gripping. Tae-jung looked at the public defender's business card the new guy handed him and finally realized the potted plants in the stairwell, the elderly person's suitcase, that deadly phone. They were all traps tailored just for him. But who's the mastermind behind this? Why are they framing these guys? This is the first 2 episodes of 2025's brand new action crime K-drama The Manipulated, packed with details and non-stop twists. If you loved this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll dive into the rest of the story in the next video.